Hi guys, so for this last discussion, I am outside my apartment taking my dog out, and I never noticed until just now. There's one handicap spot for this whole building. There's one more on the side by those garages, but for this whole complex, there's one handicap spot. There's more normal parking over there. And it just kind of made me think about what we've been talking about in terms of, society deeming disabilities or being handicapped as deviant. I think because there's not an emphasis placed on, how common disabilities are, that it's not accommodated for in the proper way. And that could be because, it's just, there's not as much recognition of it, or because it's considered so deviant that it's not brought to the attention that it should be. Okay, so I wanted to add a little bit more to what I was saying outside. So in chapter 13 in our class lecture, we went over 3 different distinctions between types of disability. So first was impairment, which is the loss of some ability usually caused by some physical reason. Disability is defined as the loss of function that accompanies an impairment. And then handicap is defined as the limitation of normal activities of self-care and mobility that results from some impairment. So, especially the disability and handicap definitions, you can see it's linked to impairment. And while, from my understanding, that these, physical disabilities can exist separately, they are correlated, usually in most cases in some way. They are linked to each other. So back to, what I was saying about the handicap spot, is we call it a handicap spot, maybe just because that's the best that whoever created them could come up with. But I think we can't limit that to just people who are handicapped, because like I said, impairment and disability can also exist without the definition of being handicapped. And it's kind of sad to see that, because those things are considered deviant when in most cases they're not preventable. There's nothing people can do for the most part if they find themselves in those situations. And the fact that a lot of places, I'm sure many of you have noticed, there's not a lot of handicap spaces for people to park. There's people having to walk across the whole complex to get where they need to go because there's only one handicap spot, or a couple. And it's I wouldn't say it's a common thing, but it's more present and more prevalent than I think most of us realize. So hopefully, society can kind of branch away from considering it as a deviant thing and create a more accessible space for everyone to utilize and live their lives the way they want to.